Hi, everyone. This is Johnnie Alexander welcoming you back to another episode of Novelists Unwind. My guest today is very special because she is one of the Mosaic Collection authors. And if you've been watching the Novelists Unwind videos for any length of time, you know that I am part of this group too. We're an international group. We have authors from the United States, from Canada, and also now from South Africa, which is really, really cool. And we're just teaming up to bring you great stories, one every single month. So you want to make sure that you're a part of that. You can look at the Mosaic Collection Facebook readers group, join that, just do a search, and we'd be glad to have you as part of our community. So today's guest is one of our Canadian authors, Sara Davison, who writes suspense, and her book just recently released called Lost Down Deep, which I just think is a wonderful, wonderful title. So we're going to talk to Sara about her writing journey and about her story and about some of her other works. Sara, tell us a little bit about Lost Down Deep. Let's just start there. If you'll show us the cover, because it's absolutely breathtaking. I love the cover of this book. Yeah, very beautiful, very beautiful. So you've been writing for a while, so this isn't your first story by any means, but tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this particular one, and then we'll kind of back up and talk about your other stories.
Sure. I always find that question really hard to answer. I'm never really sure where the ideas for my stories come from. I have friends where if we're out, they'll be like, oh, I can use that person in my story, or there's a great, and my mind doesn't work that way. I don't see things out in the world that give me story ideas. I think for me, the stories come from inside. I mean, the simple answer is that they come from God. I really believe that. I believe He gives me the stories. But a more complicated answer than that, I don't really know. I know that I had the story for this, the idea for this story quite a long time ago, and just didn't have time to work on it. And I didn't have, without a contract or anything, couldn't put it into the schedule. And then I got asked to join the Mosaic Collection. And to be honest with you, I put that off for a long time. I didn't really know what it was. And I didn't know if I'd have time. I had a contract, 3-book contract with my other publisher. And but I did have this story idea. So if I hadn't had that, I probably wouldn't have said yes. But I had the idea. I had a pretty good idea of what was going to happen in the book. And so because of that, I did agree to join the Mosaic Collection, which I'm so thankful for, because that's become such a valuable part of my life and my career. It's so very special to me. So yeah, so it was really, I don't specifically know where the idea for the book came from, but I know it's this book that got me into the Mosaic Collection, so I'm really grateful for it.
Wow, I'm really grateful for that too. And it is the first book of a trilogy, the Rose Tattoo Trilogy, which is also just a great name.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, there will be 3 eventually. I'm just starting to work on book 2 right now, which, as most people have guessed, is Cash and Renee's story. So
that's what I figured.
Next.
Yeah, one of the brothers in this family. Yeah, because we don't want to give too much away, but we want to tell enough to get you all wanting to read this book. And I'm reading it now, and I'm almost at the end, and it is just like I had to put it down so I could take a shower to be on here today. I was like, what about it finished? But it's so good, and just flipping through the pages. Stayed up late last night reading it. Got up early this morning and reading it. It's just really a good story, and it takes place in Canada, in Toronto. So, is Toronto your home?
I live about an hour west of Toronto. So yes, the book does start out in Toronto. Then of course she flees the city when something happens, and ends up in a little town called Elora, which is an actual town. It's about half an hour from me. It's one of my favorite places on earth. I'm there all the time. Just a beautiful little town with a gorge and a river running through it, and that river plays a big part in the book. So that was really fun for me to use that as my setting, because I love the town, and I just really, as I was writing all the description and everything, I could just see everything in my head, and it was really easy to do, and it was fun to use that as a setting.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So tell us a little bit about how you started writing, your writing journey. Was it something you wanted to do all your life or come to later? How did that work out for you?
I think it's been pretty much all my life. I mean, I've just always been a huge bookworm, always. I always kind of joke about the fact that when you go through my family albums, my family's all front and center and doing something fun and active, and you have to look like, where's Waldo, to find me in the back corner in a chair with my book. So it was always me. I lived at the library. We moved a lot, and that was always the first thing I did, was just head for the library. And so I can remember two incidents when I was about 9 really clearly. The first was going on a school trip, and when we came back, they had us do a write-up of the trip, and they chose mine to go in the newsletter.
Oh, wow.
And I can to this day remember how it felt seeing my words in print and knowing that people were, knowing that people were reading them. It was just such an amazing feeling, and I thought, yeah, like this is what I want to do. And then around the same time, I was in the library, and I can remember walking up and down the aisles and just kind of running my fingers along all the books, and clearly remember thinking, this can be done. All these people have written a book. I can do this. So I think really certainly by the age of 9 or so, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So then, though, the idea of sitting down and actually writing a book is really daunting.
Yes.
Still, it can be daunting. So I did everything, but I did a degree in English literature, and I took every creative writing course I could find, and I just kept learning and learning, but not actually sitting down and writing. And then one Sunday morning, it was an Easter Sunday, and I was paying attention, but I did get this whole idea for a book came to me. I had the beginning and the end and the characters and everything. So I went, sat down and wrote it, and I wrote it pretty quickly within a few weeks. And it was awful. I thought it was pretty good, and I showed it to an editor, and she quickly showed me that it was not very good. But you don't know what you don't know, right, when you're starting out. But so that book I worked on for about 5 years and completely rewrote it and revised it many times. But that original story and characters remained throughout. So that's really how I got started. I that book actually won a publishing contest at a company in Winnipeg. So it came out in 2011. And then a few years later, I got a contract with Ashbury Lane, which is now Wildfire, for a 3-book trilogy, a 3-book series. And that came out, and then I have another series that I'm working on. So yeah, it's just kind of grown from that.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're busy then. You're busy with the stories and writing with the contract. Yeah, that's great.
I'm busy. I do a lot of editing work as well. I have an editing business, and I love that too. I do a lot of mentoring of new writers who also don't know what they don't know. And I just from trial and error, I mean, I'm still learning too, but I can at least pass along to them what I've learned through trial and error. So I enjoy that too.
Yeah, I like to do that too, to talk to newer writers about how they can improve their stories and just make them better. And it is pretty much the same things, the same issues, you see again and again and again in new writers. And it, the same thing that I dealt with, and I'm sure you probably dealt with, and it's just
every possible mistake you could make, I made.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably have too. Well, and some of your books have either won awards or been finalists in awards, including the Carol, which is quite prestigious, and the Daphne du Maurier Awards too. Tell us about that. That's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, my first 5 books that came out have all been either a finalist or a winner.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a finalist for a Carol Award and 2 Daphne du Mauriers, and one of my books, The Morning Star Rises, won the Cascade Award, 2017, I think.
Nice.
I've won a Word Award, which is the biggest Canadian public literary awards, Christian fiction. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Encouraging, because it can be a really discouraging business, and sales aren't always what you would like them to be, but so just it's encouraging to get that kind of affirmation.
It really is. It can be that thing that just keeps you going. That it's like, okay, that affirmation. It's like, yeah, I can do this. I can do this.
Going for one more day, and yeah.
Well, I read on I think somebody's blog they were interviewing you, writing about you, and you had a quote in there about writing being a very spiritual activity for you, and that may not be exactly how you said it, But you did say that you feel God's pleasure when you write. And I just wanted to know if you talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was such a sweet way to, I thought, yeah, I get that. I never had put it in those words, but I get it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's a stolen quote from Eric Liddell, but
Yeah.
I totally get that. I mean, it is a spiritual experience for me when I write. When I'm really in that zone and that words are flowing, I'm
Mhm.
deeply aware that they're not coming from me, that they're coming from God, and I just feel so deeply connected to God when I'm writing. And I mean, I put at the front of all my books that it's all from you and for you, and I mean that. They come from God. He has a purpose for them. That's why I really try not to worry about sales
Yeah.
or accolades or anything like that, because really, I believe God, if he gave me the story, then he has a purpose for it. And that purpose may be that he's got 5 people he wants to read it and to get
Right.
something out of it. And I think as Christian authors, we just have to define success differently than the world does. We
Right.
see that a lot in terms of not being in competition with each other,
Mhm.
but supporting and encouraging each other, because we realize that we're all on the same team. We all have the same goal of glorifying God. And so, yeah, it's a very spiritual experience for me, and really try too to remember that any accolades that do come, really not for me. It's really for God's glory. And so that's my prayer for all my books, that just whatever God's plan and purpose is for it, that's what will happen.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. And I love what you said too about supporting each other. And I find that is so true in the Christian writing community, whether you go to writers' conferences or, I don't know, just writing groups. People are so supportive of one another and are genuine. You might, like, if someone else wins, you might feel like a little bit of sadness that it wasn't you, but
Yes, and we're still
still,
human, right? But
yeah, of course. But still you just are happy for that person too. And God has his own path. We all have our own path. And that's what I have to tell myself sometimes. And then that little green monster appears, which fortunately isn't very often, but
no, I
sometimes.
wrestle with that too. I do.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, of course we do. But it's like, okay, that was their path. This is my path. And that's fine. It's
Right?
what
It's
God
not about me. Say
wants.
that a lot. It's really not about me.
Well, when you're not writing, what do you do to have fun?
Well, kind of limited right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mean, in a lot of ways, this really isn't horrible for me. Like a lot of writers, I'm an introvert and a homebody, and so um, I don't mind that a lot of things have been cut out of my schedule, and that I'm exhausted. Somebody said, really think when this is over about what you want to put back into your schedule, and I think that's really good advice, right?
Yeah.
I've found there's probably some things that don't have to be in my schedule and be perfectly fine. But my whole family's home now because our son was in the UK, flew home, and I love that. I love having everybody under the roof, our roof
Nice.
again. So family time really is what's really special right now. We're watching movies and playing a lot of games, and in normal times, I love meeting friends for coffee or going
Mhm.
out for dinner. And my husband and I, we like road trips. I'm not a big flyer, we're not big travelers, but we do love to do a road trip. And so we do that. And I'm involved with the women's ministry at our church, which I love. And yeah, I never have any trouble filling my days. Even now, I don't. In fact, I'm probably busier than ever because I'm still doing all my work, which thankfully I can do at home,
No.
and taking care of all these people that are in my house now. So good.
Oh, that's it. That is fun. Yeah. I live with my son, and so he's a youth minister, and he's working from home now too, and it is nice. Even though some mornings, I mean, because he has his setup in his bedroom, so I don't even see him sometimes till afternoon because he just is, you know, in there working away. But it's just nice knowing that we're, like you said, just under the same roof
Yep.
together. We have a big puzzle set up in the kitchen on the kitchen table, so you can't eat at the kitchen table anymore because of this giant 2,000 piece puzzle that's there that we're slowly putting together. So
I keep thinking I should do a puzzle. I picked up a couple recently, but I'm starting with like 500 pieces. But someone told me that if you're doing a puzzle, if you're having trouble with writer's block, that doing a puzzle is really good because it just distracts that part of the brain that you don't use for writing, so
Mm-hmm.
that it frees up that part. So that may be something I need to
I
do.
think there's some truth to that. Actually, someone was talking to me about that yesterday when I was telling them about working on this puzzle, and it is true that there's just that sense of just even putting one piece where it belongs, you get those little shots of or jolts of and it just is mindless, and yet it does seem to do a different part of the brain, because like already working at home, an introvert, don't get out much anyway. I've been busy. I mean, I'm writing my book, editing a book, another book to edit. It's like I really haven't had time just to shut down like some people have. I've
Oh yeah, no, there's no
been
time.
working. So just doing that puzzle has been a bit of a break. And there have been times when I can't focus on the story that I just went in there and spent a half hour just, trying to work on it. So I only had one puzzle in this house, and it was a tiny one. It's like this big, 150 pieces, almost impossible to put together.
Oh really? All the same.
Teeny tiny pieces, and they don't fit right. Even when they're supposed to go together, they don't. I don't know how we got on this big thing about puzzles, but anyway, so I said, please, when you go to the store again, because I'm not going to the store, he's doing all the errands, see about a puzzle. And he said there were only 4, and they were all Pokemon puzzles. So we're putting together this huge Pokemon puzzle. Like I said, 2,000 pieces, except I think now we only have 1,999 because I think Polly has eaten a piece.
That's the worst.
Yeah. So we'll find out when we get to the end. Yeah, I think one of them is gone.
It's going to drive me crazy to know that one piece missing.
Yeah. So, okay, we talked about the characters. Let's talk about why suspense. What draws you to suspense as your genre? Because every book you've written has been, like, I write multiple genres, but you write totally in suspense. So what draws you to that?
I do. Funny, I don't remember ever making the conscious decision that that's what I was going to write.
Yeah.
Now it's what I loved to read, so I guess it's not that surprising that when I sat down to write, that's what came out. And I think maybe, and I was joking about this with somebody yesterday, that I'm a middle child, so I don't enjoy conflict. I'm always trying to keep the peace between people. So I really think for me, there's something cathartic about writing all this conflict. And I think that just kind of, I get it all out on the computer, and then I don't have to carry it over into real life. So that's appealing. But I mean, I love to read suspense just because I just love a book that just keeps me flipping the pages and my state and my heart thumping. Like if it doesn't have that element, sometimes I can just find it really slow, and that's not probably the case, but just for me, because I'm used to suspense. So it's always drawn me just because I just love that edge of your seat feeling. And I do like the romance part. I don't write straight romance, but I love it as a combined genre, because for me, more than just the romance itself, I kind of use it as a tool to just really up the ante for the main character. So, if someone you love is in danger, that's even more, there's more on the line than if you are yourself, right? So that's why I love the romantic angle. It adds that much more intensity to the story. So.
And it really does in this story, because, we don't want to give anything away, but I want you to show the book again and just tell us a little bit, like from the back blurb. You don't have to read it, but just what the story is about. Yeah,
so basically, you get this right from the back that Summer is the main character, is right in the opening chapter. Someone breaks into her home and she's attacked, and she loses her memory. But she knows he's still out there. She doesn't know who he is, can't remember anything. So she flees Toronto to go to Elora, where she's hoping that she'll be safe until the police can figure out who it was that attacked her. 3 different men follow her, and you don't know who's good and who's bad. One of them is Ryan Taylor. She gets a job at a bakery, and he comes in and they meet one day, and she's really drawn to him, but she doesn't know if she can trust him, and then she starts to become very suspicious of him. So basically, she just doesn't know who she can trust, and she's trying to get her memories back. And in the meantime, you just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen. It's a good story. And two, just put in another little plug. We wrote, the Mosaic Collection authors, several of us wrote a Christmas anthology called Hope is Born, and Sarah's story in it also is about it's set in this little town.
Right. So the bakery where Summer gets a job is owned by a couple called named Daphne and Sean. So my Christmas story is their story a year earlier than this book. And then we're putting together a summer anthology as well. And that story, one of the secondary characters in Lost Down Deep is Summer's landlady, Nancy.
Yes.
And
I like Nancy.
Summer anthology story will be Nancy's story.
Oh, that's cool. I'm excited about that. Oh, that's cool. That's great. Yeah, so you want to get all of our anthologies as well, because some of the authors do that. They put characters. I haven't done that yet, but because my stories can be kind of weird.
Yeah. Otherwise, these little characters, they don't get their own story. So
So it's really nice to do that and to get just that little bit extra then. So, well, one last question I ask everybody before every guest that I have on here. When you're all done writing, you hit the end, what do you do to unwind?
Well, again, I can't do what I would normally do. I am coming close to finishing another book, and that is just the best feeling to type those words at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I would go out. We'd go out. My husband and I would probably go out for dinner and celebrate. So I imagine this time we will just maybe make something nice for dinner, and I will just turn off the computer for maybe a day, not do any work, and that'll start with the editing process. But yeah, it's always exciting.
That's it. I mean, I hardly started it with this book that's coming out, my Mosaic Collection book. I was sending the editor chapters to start editing while I was still, I've never done that before. We're still writing the ending. So yeah, as soon as I sent her the last, she was already sending me the first. So I haven't even had really a break because I'm so close to deadline. But I don't usually write like that. But this time it just kind of worked out that way. So anyway, so glad to have you. Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
Yeah, it was fun. Highly recommend Lost Down Deep and Sarah's other books. Also, I love the name of your newsletter, My Life on the Edge. And so we'll put a link to Sarah's website, of course, in the blog post, and you'll want to sign up for her newsletter too, because that's really just a cool name. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Johnnie, my pleasure.
All right, so bye everybody. Stay safe, stay inside, read lots of books.
Yes, lots of books.
Lots of books. Bye till next time on Novelists Unwind.